Hello and welcome to the news desk with me, Chris Stafford, alongside Nancy Gillen. This is season 4, episode 2, and we're recording on January the 12th. We are in the grip of winter here, Nancy. How about in London?
It's pretty cold, but it's actually a very nice blue sky, sunny type cold day today. So as long as the sun's out, I'm relatively happy. So it's not too bad.
And you can run.
Yeah, I can run. Exactly. I think it's still not, sometimes when it's really cold and it's quite hard to get your breath, I think, when you're running, but it's not got that cold here. So I'm still out and about running, which is nice.
Excellent. All right. Well, we're talking about winter sports now to kick off this week's news. And it all focuses on Elana Meyers Taylor again. The American monobob and bobsledder. She's been absolutely on fire. She's just won another World Cup monobob this time was in Winterberg in Germany. And her teammate Kaillie Humphries narrowly missed the medals. She just finished in 4th place behind her, but teamed with Sylvia Hoffman to claim the bronze medal in the 2 women bobsled World Cup race out there. Now, Elana Meyers Taylor and Kaysha Love had the fastest run in the second heat. This is still in the bobsled, and finished just behind their teammates in 4th place. So the Americans are doing really well going into, the final stages of preparation, selection, qualifying for the Beijing Olympics, and we'll be talking a lot more of that. It's creeping up on us so fast, isn't it? There's a lot of we've had the ice skating national championships as well, which were selection trials. So what about over there, Nancy? Because of course you don't focus so much on like bobsled or skiing. You do have athletes in those sports, though, don't you?
Yeah, and we do. There's Charlotte Banks, the snowboard. She's is it cross snowboard? It's the snowboard where it's a short race and they race each other. I can't quite remember what it's called, but she won I think a World Cup event at the weekend. She is kind of French British, but she does compete for Britain in the for international competition. So I think there's a bit of excitement growing around her because she's a medal contender. I know the BBC today, they announced their lineup for their coverage, and it's people like Lizzie Arnold, who's probably one of our best Winter Olympians. So it is starting to ramp up kind of the coverage and the excitement for it. But like you said, it's kind of, very different here, Summer Olympics compared to the Winter Olympics, because we send a much smaller team. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I think as only kind of 3 weeks away now, so it'd be interesting to see how much attention it gets over here. Yeah,
absolutely. Well, talking about girls on fire, Sara, Hector, the Swedish skier, she's been absolutely on fire. Watching her this past weekend in Kranjska Gora in Slovakia, she won by almost a second at the giant slalom, beating the French girl Tessa Worley and the Italian Marta Bassino. It was really, really exciting. She was, I think, the one that really attacked the course all weekend. Also in the slalom, she didn't win the slalom, but she was just on such great form. Petra Vlhova, of course, not surprisingly, won the slalom in Kranjska Gora. That was on Sunday, with the Swiss girl Wendy Holden a second, and another Swede, Larsen Sven, was third. So that was a good place for her. I think that was the first time on the podium this year for her in World Cup. But the race that Sara Hector had in the giant slalom really stole the weekend. It was a fabulous competition. I watched all of it on replay. It's too early in the morning, like 4 a.m. to get up and watch when they're skiing in Europe, Nancy. So I catch it all on replay, but thankfully the Federation do put them all on YouTube. So if anybody wants to catch up with the skiing from Europe at a reasonable hour, then I recommend that you subscribe to the International Skiing Federation's YouTube website. So that's where you can get most of the races, and you can get the highlights, and then you can get the full package very often, depending on the rights, of course. So that was a great weekend. And then the girls went to Schladming in Austria just yesterday. We're recording this on Wednesday the 12th. And Mikaela Shiffrin found some form again. She skied off, actually. She didn't finish in Kranjska Gora. So she made up for that in Schladming just yesterday by beating her arch rival Petra Vlhova in the slalom there. So that was a good result for her because she really does need to stay on the top of the podium to maintain her overall position in the cup standings, because right now Sara Hector, with that win at the weekend, she's topping the slalom standings, the giant slalom standings. And in the slalom, not surprisingly, it's Petra Vlhova who's leading those ahead of Mikaela Shiffrin. But Mikaela Shiffrin's still leading the overall standings. So we'll keep an eye on those going into the Beijing Winter Olympics, because obviously when they come out of that, it depends on how they finish off the season when they compete for those crystal globes. So Mikaela Shiffrin's got it all to play for with Petra Vlhova, and of course Sofia Goggia, the Italian, also nipping at her heels for those overall standings. So that's a roundup of the World Cup this past weekend. Some great skiing. I love that skiing from Kranjska Gora. I mean, it's really icy. I thought there was a really good giant slalom. So, yeah, that was a great weekend. On to the next one, Nancy. You did say you did see a little bit of skiing. Did you say you watched Sofia Goggia in the giant slalom?
Yeah, I saw the replay of her winning, of her races. So quite out of context compared to kind of how everyone else performed, but I did manage to catch a bit of that. Yeah, because you do have World Cup Ski Sunday, I think it's called. Yeah, on BBC, and then get clips come through on Twitter and stuff like that as well.
Right.
So have a chance to watch it there as well. So it's not completely cut off from me.
No. Well, the girls are in Salkensee this weekend. That's in Austria. For a downhill and a Super G, which I look forward to, downhill being my very favourite. So excited to see what Sofia Goggia can do there this weekend, as well as I have to say my favourite, Lara Gutbarami, who skied well, I thought, in the giant slalom. She finished, I think, 5th in Kranjska Gora. But I thought she skied rather well. So looking forward to seeing what she can do now this weekend in the downhill. As you say, we're creeping up on the Winter Olympics, Nancy. So what have you got for us? I think we're not going to talk too much about men's tennis right now, but we've got some news on women's tennis as the Australian Open creeps up on us starting next weekend.
Yeah, so only kind of 5 days, I think, from the start of the Australian Open. And we've had now quite a few warm-up tournaments take place. And I think we're kind of getting quite a good idea of who is in form and who isn't. Which also kind of gives us an idea of who is going to kind of perform in the Australian Open as well. So unsurprisingly, Ashley Barty, the world number one. She won Wimbledon last year. She is looking in very, very good form. She won one of the, she actually won 2 of the events at the Adelaide International that was taking place last week. So she won the women's singles competition and then won the doubles as well. So she is looking very good. Of course, being an Australian, she'll have the home crowd behind her as well. And it's kind of, you expect her to go far in the tournament. In the final of the Adelaide International Women's Singles tournament, she played Elana Rybakina, who is a player from Kazakhstan, who's also looking in really good form. And she actually played Raducanu yesterday in a tournament in Sydney. Emma Raducanu being the US Open champion, of course, and Rybakina absolutely obliterated Raducanu. I think it was 6-1. So 2 sets. I think she completed the match in about 55 minutes. So again, I think quite another big name to look out for. Simona Halep as well. She had a bit of an injury-stricken year last year and missed quite a lot of the Grand Slams, but she seems to be back in form and won a tournament in Melbourne. And then Naomi Osaka as well, of course, she's returned to court and did withdraw from the tournament that she was competing in. But I suspect it was more, I think we're seeing it quite a lot here. Obviously, I don't want to put it on the players that they are doing this, but I think there's been a few kind of tactical withdrawals. So Iga Swiatek withdrew from her tournament. I think Barty withdrew from one of the tournaments she was in. I think it's kind of like once they've gone so far in a tournament and they've got enough match practice, I think they'd rather stay rested for the Australian Open. So I don't think that injury that Osaka's got is concerning at all. And she is looking to be in good form. Someone that isn't looking great is Sabalenka, the Belarusian tennis player, who just seems to be struggling a bit. She is world number 2 and had a really good year last year. She didn't win a Grand Slam, but she got to the semi-finals of 2. So she's very much kind of knocking on the door. But she's competed in 2 warm-up tournaments and has really struggled in both, in particular with her serve. And I don't know, Chris, if you've seen any of the clips on...
I have, yeah. Underarm serves. I mean, she must have completely lost her way.
Yeah, and it's I think for the second, so this happened in both matches. She's played in 2 different warm-up tournaments. Happened in both matches. She lost both matches. And in the second match, the umpire actually asked her if she was okay, and she was quite upset about it. I think she cried a little bit after the umpire asked her, and she just said, "I'm fine. It's me technically, like it's a technical problem that I'm not good enough at the moment to be serving." So that is definitely something to watch, because I thought this year she'd really build on the year she had last year. She's world number 2.
I know you were really excited about her last season, weren't you?
Yeah, I really like her as a player. I think she's great, especially around kind of the Wimbledon time. She was really in really, really good form. So it's quite disappointing, I think. And she's not quite a powerful player as well. So to be really struggling with her serve is quite surprising. So yeah, we'll just have to see how it plays out in the Australian Open and whether she's able to fix it. But the way she kind of was upset about it on court maybe suggests that this is, fixing the serve, but then maybe fixing a bit of a mental issue with the serve as well, which could potentially take longer than she's got anyway. So it's a bit of a shame to see her struggling. And subsequently, I'm not sure if she's going to do too well in the Grand Slam next week.
Yeah, that is a great shame. As you say, she completely lost her way, and it does undermine your confidence. If you technically come undone, I think it's the same in any sport. And certainly she really did lose her confidence. But I must say, she did post something on TikTok afterwards when she got back to her hotel, making a bit of a joke of it when she was playing badly. But I haven't seen anything from her since. But if you do have a TikTok account, if you're on TikTok, do follow her, because some of her previous posts are quite fun. She's quite the mover, as you would expect, Nancy. She can sing and dance. Well, she can almost sing and dance, but she can dance.
Yeah, I had a look after you recommended I check out her profile, and yeah, she is. I think she seems quite serious on court, doesn't she? So it's nice to see the other side of her personality.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So we wish her well. Hopefully she can get back into her groove and figure out what it is that was plaguing her and, in time for a Grand Slam. But it's not like she's just going into any other tournament. She is going into a Grand Slam. So you really have got to have your game together, haven't you, to have the confidence, to see the distance.
Yeah, and I think the Grand Slam as well is what's evaded her last year. A very successful year last year, and yeah, I think it doesn't seem like she's quite ready really to take the opportunity that's coming in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll be following that. As I said, that starts on the 17th in Melbourne, and we're not going to talk about the men's side because that's another podcast somewhere else. But I will say that there was another player who was deported because her visa papers were not in order. Nancy, you saw that, didn't you? Yeah. Yeah,
Renata Vorokova.
Well done.
Thanks. The Czech player. So the WTA have actually issued a statement about that situation this morning, kind of early hours of this morning for me, because it just the kind of the double standards in the whole situation is mad anyway. But I think the fact that Vlhova been deported from Australia, she decided not to appeal the situation, but I still think, there was different treatment to what Djokovic got compared to Vlhova. So the WTA have released a statement condemning it and saying that she did, fill out all the criteria or comply with all the criteria that Tennis Australia and the government, etc., required from her. So, yeah, I do feel quite sorry for her, because it must be very hard for her now to have been sent home and to see the situation with Djokovic unfold as it has. But like you said, we won't get too much into that, because that's definitely another podcast where they can analyse Djokovic's decisions.
Yeah. I'm sure that will be taken to pieces on other podcasts. But I did read that she said she didn't have the resources in terms of, legal counsel to appeal that decision. And she only had her coach with her. She didn't have, this big team that he does. And she really just didn't have the resources to do anything but turn around and go home. But I understand it's a 3-year ban from Australia by doing that. Oh, really? I didn't know about that as well. So has she essentially got a 3-year ban now?
Yeah,
that's what I understand. So whether she can appeal after the fact, I know she's looking for compensation from Australian Tennis Australia, because they misled her. So she's looking for compensation. The flights alone were over $2,000. She and her coach. Yeah, I'm sure the WTA will be beside her on that, supporting her. And we'll keep you posted if we have an update on that next week. We're going to move on to cycling now, Nancy. This a story from the UCI. I wasn't able to read the whole story, I will say, because there was a paywall, but it's about the UCI, the Cycling Federation, disrespecting women's cycling by banning the 2022 kits. Were you able to unpick that a bit more?
I wasn't able to get behind the paywall either, but I have seen some anger about this on social media. And I think it was more the fact that, so they've banned 2 of the team jerseys with just 2 weeks to go before the season gets underway. So obviously that's not much time to really kind of change things or, for the teams to get new jerseys. So I think it seemed to me on Twitter that it was just kind of highlighting the, if it was the men's team's jerseys, they wouldn't have done it so last minute. It's kind of highlighting that kind of, not disrespect, but kind of, they don't treat the men and women cycling in the same way. I did see that caused a bit of a fuss.
We're going to move back to winter sports now, to the speed skating Olympic trials, the US Olympic trials that took place this past weekend, because you covered a story from that about Brittany Bowe and her teammate Erin Jackson.
Yeah, this is quite an incredible story, really. It's quite heartwarming as well. So both women were competing at the US Olympic trials for Beijing over the weekend. They're both speed skaters. And so Bowe is more... She's competes over longer distances normally, like that's kind of her expertise, compared to Jackson, who's the world number one, across the 500 meters. And Jackson was the favourite to win the qualifying race for the 500 meters, but slipped. As we know with speed skating, it is incredibly volatile, and you can slip or crash, and that's you done basically. But so Jackson slipped and finished 3rd, and there were only 2 qualifying berths. So Bowe and Kimi Gertz qualified instead. But at that point, Bowe, who had already qualified across the 1,000 and 1,500 meter distances, essentially sacrificed her place so that Jackson could get the qualification berth instead, which is just, they're very long-term friends. Apparently they both grew up in the same area in Florida, and obviously would have known each other for a long time, competing and stuff. But yeah, I think it's just the epitome of friendship, really. And Bowe said, in my heart, there was never a question that I would do whatever it took if it came down to me to get her into skate at the Olympics. And she said that no one's more deserving than her to get an opportunity to bring home Team USA a medal. And then obviously Jackson has also thanked Bowe as well. So yeah, it's just an amazing story, really. And I mean, I think if you're looking at it, even, you know, Bowe's probably being like for the good of the team, because realistically Jackson would be the one more likely to get Olympic gold than Bowe. So in that sense, it probably kind of makes sense. But it obviously still would be a really hard, you know, difficult thing to do, to give up a place in, even though she is already competing in 2 races, to give up a place in a 3rd race is just very, very nice thing to do, really.
It is great sportsmanship. It really is. And I did read that Bowe is, Bowe, or Bowe is, how do you pronounce her last name, is 33 years old. So how long do they speed skate for then? That seems a good age to be at Olympic level for skating.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's probably, I imagine probably this would be her last Olympics, probably.
And they did, as you say, grow up in Florida. And it was actually Ocala, Florida, in north central Florida, where I used to live. I didn't bump into them because you don't actually see much speed skating in Florida. All right. Well, thank you for that, Nancy. As I said, that's another Winter Olympic story. And some good sportsmanship. We love that. But there's a couple of stories in baseball that have been making history this week, isn't there, over here? US baseball, of course.
Yeah.
Sorry, and Australian. US and Australian.
Yeah, US and Australian. So kind of, well, I suppose the US is where first and foremost baseball is most popular. So there was the great news that Rachel Balkovec is going to become the first female manager in minor league baseball. So she's been hired by the New York Yankees to take charge of one of their affiliate teams, the Tampa Tarpons. So that it's, you know, kind of, it's not in like the main league of baseball, but she's working with one of the main teams to manage a lower down team. So yeah, just a really kind of historic milestone. She's kind of previously talked about how difficult I think it is being a woman in baseball. And she's saying that she used to, she had changed her name on her CV from Rachel to Ray, which actually increased the number of interviews she got. But then when they heard her speak, they would often reject her immediately, which I think kind of, I mean, I'm laughing, but that's actually awful. It just shows the obstacles she had to overcome to get to the place she is now. And now she's there. You just hope that she'd be able to kind of rise up and get to one of those major league sides.
Wouldn't that be awesome? It's not the first time she's broken the glass ceiling, too. A couple of years ago, she was announced as the New York Yankees' new hitting coach, which was a first for a woman to hold such a position full time. Yeah,
exactly. And it must be said as well that there is a female coach at a major league level. So Alicia Nacken is a coach for the San Francisco Giants, but there hasn't been that woman in a managerial role. So breaking boundaries there, which is really great to see.
And as they are in Australia with the Australian Baseball League, tell us about that. First woman to pitch in the league, Genevieve Beacom.
Yeah, this is an amazing story, particularly because of her age. So Beacom is only 17 years old. And she, like you said, became the first female pitcher in the Australian Baseball League. She made her debut for the Melbourne Aces in the Melbourne Challenge Series game against the Adelaide Giants. She pitched a scoreless inning without giving up a hit, which sounds bad, but that's actually good. That's actually what you want. So she had a good, her debut went successfully, although unfortunately Melbourne Aces lost overall. But yeah, she just afterwards she thanked kind of her friends, family, coaches for supporting her, and told other young girls to not stop. She said, if someone's pushing you to play softball and you want to play baseball, essentially, and just, encouraged future generations to follow in her footsteps. So she's made history quite a few times before as well in various kind of leagues underneath, like the professional league. And I read somewhere as well that she's hoping to go over to the US and play college baseball as well. So I'm sure she's already, playing professional in Australia, she'd be definitely able to go over to the US and achieve that dream. So interesting to see what she does next.
Yeah, no stopping her, is there, by the look of things? She's been signed as a development player with the team then for this coming season too.
Yeah.
So good for her, 17 years old. What a future. Okay, we're going to turn to wheelchair basketball for our last story. There's some, this is good news too, Nancy, more exposure for the sport.
Yeah, this is a really kind of feel good story as well. So starting on the 22nd of January, so only kind of a week away now, actually, the British Wheelchair Basketball Women's Premier League is going to get underway. It's actually going to be the first ever professional parasport league in the UK. So it's incredible as well that, to reach that milestone as well. But the BBC have also announced that they're going to be showing 8 games across the league. And then if it's not on the BBC, then any other match can be watched on the British Wheelchair Basketball YouTube channel as well. So I think, obviously the league itself is really great, but then also to have the increased visibility of it going on the BBC and people, kind of seeing women's parasport more regularly than they probably would otherwise, I think is really, really good news. So, yeah, I'm hoping to be able to catch some of that. I think it's, like I said, starting next week. And, hopefully be able to watch a few of those matches.
Well, good for them. That, again, more exposure for the sports. I love to see this. And finally, Nancy, some football news. I'm not sure you feel very good about this. We've got some feel-good stories, but this is not one of them. Arsenal getting beaten by Birmingham at the weekend.
Yeah, you'll notice I didn't suggest this as a story. The Women's Super League over here got going again after a winter break. And there were only 3 matches because some of them have been postponed because of COVID cases within the squads. And it was, really, Manchester City, who've been struggling, they had a really great start to the new year by beating Brighton 6-0. But unfortunately for Arsenal, it was probably the worst possible result. They were playing Birmingham, who, bottom of the league, beforehand had only got 1 point from a draw with West Ham. And that they hadn't won in something. It was something like 19 games going back into last season. And Arsenal lost 2-0. All credit to Birmingham. I don't want to show them any disrespect. They were really brilliant, and they've had a new manager come in the past few weeks who is doing a really, really good job, and they completely deserved that result. It wasn't like a smash and grab. Arsenal were poor and Birmingham were very, very good. But Arsenal was still top of the table. They've got Chelsea, their game got postponed, so they've got a game in hand, but Arsenal would still be a point clear at the top of the table, and Arsenal and Chelsea still have to play next month. So that is probably going to be the title decider. But losing to Birmingham, I think, is a big blow. It was a massive shock. I'd say it's probably the upset of the season. It was kind of a very dramatic restart to the Women's Super League over here.
Yeah, sorry about that. But on the flip side, we're hearing that Leah Williamson and Tobin Heath, the American player, they're going to be joining. Well, they're in training again. They've both been off with injuries for quite a long time. With Tobin, it was a bit of a mystery because they made nothing of it at the start. But then the layoff got longer and longer and longer and longer. We wondered when she was coming back, but I hear she is.
Yeah, I think it's. I've seen pictures of her in training, which I think is very encouraging because before, like you said, it was kind of like these arbitrary dates or time periods which were then extended. So I think to actually see her back in training shows that she is genuinely coming back. I think before the international break, which is mid-February, Leah Williamson is a massive boost as well. She's probably been one of the key reasons why Arsenal haven't been performing as well as of late. So I feel like both of those players back should be a massive, massive boost. So I'm very much looking forward to that.
All right, stay tuned because Nancy will bring you what's happening from the Arsenal Women's Football Club right here every week on the news desk. We should also mention a transfer here that Lynn Williams, the USWNT player, she's moved from the North Carolina Courage to Kansas City Connect to join her podcast co-host, Sam Mewis. So that'll be fun. She's got some other former players from North Carolina's there as well. So, yeah, that was another transfer move this week. Well, that about wraps it up, Nancy, doesn't it, for this week?
It does, yeah. It's been, I think next week it's going to be even busier with the Australian Open and Winter Olympics build-up. So,
yes.
Yeah, it's an exciting couple of weeks ahead.
Yeah, so stay tuned here. And, of course, don't forget to check out our other podcasts here. We've had Try This podcast was out this week. And then on Friday, there'll be a Transcending Sport podcast with Laurie Okamura, who I spoke to. She's a very interesting woman who's doing a lot of different things across equality and access for women in sport, across all sports. I really enjoyed that conversation with her, and that's going to be out on Friday on Transcending Sport. Nancy and I will be back the same time next week for more from the news desk here. Don't forget to follow Nancy on social media at...
So I'm on at Nancy_Gillen on Twitter and Nancy_Gillen_sport on Instagram. And then all my work stuff is at Gimme Sport W on Twitter.
Okay, and also we can be found on Wisp Sports on all your social media channels, and the show notes and links to all the stories that we covered here on the show are at wisports.com. So until next week, stay safe, stay warm, and thank you for listening.